Hello, and welcome to the Rest, Repair, Recover podcast. I'm Susie Bolt. This is a space for anyone who's navigating chronic illness. We are here to share real stories, helpful insights, and honest conversations about what it really takes to help yourself heal a tiny bit every day. So whether you're in bed listening, you're on a gentle walk, or you're just needing some company as you go about your day, I'm so glad that you're here.
Many of our community are women of the kind of 40 plus range who are potentially going to be dealing with a multitude of things alongside any chronic illness from a virus or the vaccine. When you're in that 40 plus range, guess what? Yes, your hormones are going to be being affected, shall we just say. What we do know is that viruses like COVID can cause huge hormonal disruption anyway, as well as then combined with the factor that your age is going to be putting you in more of a position to have hormonal imbalance. Lots of our female community are experimenting with HRT, and many are having a very big success, but some are really struggling. Their bodies just doesn't want to absorb it, or it creates a huge response in their mast cells. So brilliantly, we have here with me today Kevin Leivers from The Naked Pharmacy, who is going to be helping us get to the bottom of how can we naturally support hormonal disruption and almost create an alternative to HRT. So Kevin, can you help us, please?
Absolutely. And just to say, again, best of both worlds here. So
Great.
If you can make HRT work for you, then I think there's lots of options and variations.
Yeah.
And it is a little bit experimental in terms of what works for you. So do talk to your GP. And if you're not getting the right conversation, then change or try and find a specialist in the area and we can refer on at the Naked Pharmacy.
Great.
So
understanding that there are different, if we just look at the estrogen piece by itself, we know that you can get gels and you can get patches, and some people will have different absorption abilities for those. So again, don't give up on it. If your body isn't getting the initial uptake that you're hoping for, there are other things that you can try.
It's transformed and it is still transforming in terms of the options available. And the important thing is that we know that HRT reduces the risk factors of so many different conditions, specifically cardiovascular, but also cognitive function, reduce the risk of Alzheimer's. And the data is unequivocal. And it's really important.
Yeah.
If you can make it work, then
great.
Experiment it, discuss it with the GP, lots of different options available.
Yeah.
So you may want to work alongside supplements.
Yeah, great.
And just to reiterate what we discussed previously, which was that never underestimate the impact of diet and nutrition,
Agreed.
Food and drink. Don't discount drink with this, because sometimes people assume that it's a liquid. Somehow it doesn't really apply.
When you say drink, you mean alcohol?
Well, it's alcohol, it's shakes, it's protein shakes, it's protein powders that you're putting into
which many
liquid
women
form.
are going to be taking because they're getting the message you need to get more protein into your bodies, right?
Yeah, so don't assume that that's not causing a problem or actually interfering with what you're trying to take and what you're trying to resolve. So if you're struggling to interpret the label, then you can contact the Naked Pharmacy. We're happy to help support you and give you the advice and the education that you need to be able to interpret labels. Really important. We talk about the importance of sugar. Sugar drives inflammation, but also interferes with hormones.
Okay.
So if you're taking what we talked about earlier, which was maltodextrin, it's hidden within a shake or whatever, or powder, then that's going to be driving imbalance in hormone. Equally, things like a cortisol, stress hormone. Again, all the hormones are interlinked. So if you've got a stress hormone going to impact on your melatonin in the evening, your sleep hormone, it's going to impact on the estrogen cycle, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if you can reduce your stress or your response to stress, actually most of us can't avoid stress in our lives and stuff. We've got them, it's naturally there. So if you can reduce that stress response using saffron, using magnesium, then it dials down that cortisol response. And it's a learning process. If you're reteaching, you're retraining the body not to produce so much cortisol every time you get a stressful moment. And again, you're then building that confidence that I'm in charge of the situation. So the psychological impact, mind-body link,
huge.
is absolutely massive. So as a general rule, supplements can really help either alongside HRT or on their own.
Okay.
As a general rule also is that a lot of supplements out there make very broad sweeping claims about menopause.
Yeah, you'll see them. Menopause support.
Yes.
You know, there's products just called menopause.
Yeah, absolutely.
Take this.
And I'm afraid to say that they are making very broad claims that are not based on science. So we know that menopause symptoms, above 50 different types of symptoms.
Yeah.
And so if you look at the data for the different ingredients, whether it's sage, whether it's evening primrose oil, whatever, they're very narrow in terms of the data. So it's really important to be focusing your supplement on the specific breakthrough symptoms. So say if you're taking HRT, you might have breakthrough symptoms, which includes anxiety, which is sleep.
Yeah.
So the HRT's kind of rebalanced a lot of things, but you're getting breakthrough areas that you need to address. So, breakthrough anxiety, then you can use the saffron to try and kind of reduce that down and the impact of that. So alongside, they can help with these breakthrough symptoms, hot flushes. So we're looking at things like red clover, sage, evening primrose oil. They can all, at the right strength, the right dose, really important again to get the right quality and strength, help with those type of specific symptoms.
It's not going to cover everything.
But the whole kind of plethora, range of 50 plus symptoms, absolutely not.
No.
So if something says menopause, it's actually misleading. So, and generally, my golden rule is that you cannot, the weight of herb, if you're using herbs specifically for, menopause, ashwagandha is an example for, it's a brilliant herb for menopause symptoms, particularly psychological symptoms, nervous symptoms, etc.
Okay.
It's an adaptogenic, so it's a really good way to kind of readjust the body, and it does that naturally because of its components. They're what are called withanolides.
Okay.
So you can have an aphrodisiac. Sorry, I think that's the
product.
Ashwagandha. With no withanolides or very few withanolides, and it's not going to do the work. So again, have a look at the label. Make sure the actives are in there at the right strength, because that's the science.
Okay.
It's relating to the actives.
That's why we take ashwagandha. It has to be that bit.
Has to have withanolides at the right strength.
Okay.
So do check the label.
And what would be the right strength? So how do we know to look for that?
So generally you'll look on the label and it will say 5%. And we like to work with a lot larger strength than that. So 35% strength of the withanolides. So anything in between, you're just going to get a grade of different responses from that. 5% absolute minimum, 35% optimum. You won't get above 35% because you can't actually extract above that strength without difficulty. So it's really important to say, well, okay, if I've got nervous system issues that's breaking through, or I'm not able to take HRT, and those are what are my predominant symptoms? Is it hot flushes?
Right.
Is it aches and pains? Whatever it is. And
insomnia.
Big
one.
And you're going to have to deal with them one by one.
Yes.
Now, in terms of replacing the hormones without HRT, that's a bit more of a challenge. So there are foods out there like flaxseed.
Yes.
Really good for estrogens. There's phytoestrogens, obviously.
Phytoestrogens, yeah.
They will go part of the way. Will they go the full way?
You'd have to eat a lot. That was my assumption.
That's the issue. It's the actual quantity you're going to have on a regular basis. So if you think about your HRT, you're having to take it every day, which is natural, because you've got that cycle of you're taking them in and it's been broken down, so you've got to top it up, just like the body would have done normally.
Yeah.
So you'll go so far with the estrogens. There's a thing called fenugreek.
Okay.
Which is really good for testosterone. Now, testosterone we normally associate with men, but it's equally important to women.
It's been the most important thing for me, I think.
It's often an area that's overlooked from a practitioner point of view. Yeah. So you generally have some difficulty getting testosterone for women from your GP.
Agreed.
So actually fenugreek, again, at the right
Amazing.
strength, about 60% saponins. It's a class of phytochemicals within the fenugreek.
Amazing.
You need that level of strength. Saponin level, really important at the right dose, will improve and increase your testosterone levels quite significantly.
Great.
So progesterone is a lot harder.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit of a difficulty. And with some people I know, they benefit a lot from the progesterone. So I think that's where you're going to have to probably deal with the individual symptoms one by one, as opposed to thinking, well, I'm going to take this, there's plenty of brands out there, and expect it to kind of cover that whole area and stuff. So, hot sweats definitely you can treat. The anxiety, nervousness, the sleeplessness, the mood, absolutely with saffron.
Great.
Sugar and fat. This is really an interesting area because we know that the cardiovascular risk goes up as your hormones go down.
That's right.
So your control of sugar intake is really important, because there's a little kind of journey, chemical journey, if you like, a biochemical journey, which takes you from sugar, which then drives fat, and then obviously then causes a lot of issues in terms of circulatory.
Right.
And it's not just the cardiovascular system that's affected, it affects your cognitive function, because obviously if your brain is not getting the circulation it needs, then it's not keeping the nervous system in the brain and the spinal cord at an optimal level, which is why cognitive function is becoming a real issue, my mum included,
Okay.
So I'm very conscious, of my mum's diet. If I look back in terms of what she used to have and her addiction to sugar, and how important that's been in terms of her process. So we have a product called Metabolic Gold, which is bergamot plus artichoke leaf.
Okay.
Bergamot is a brilliant product for rebalancing fat, good, bad fats, particularly in and around the liver. Liver is really, really fundamental to a lot of things in terms of processing fats, but it's not just that. If you've got a clean liver, then your system is firing up. It produces a lot of heat as well. So if you're generally a cold person, then you need to be looking into your gut, and particularly the liver, which is the firehouse of the body. So, the artichoke leaf will rebalance sugar. It drops the level of sugar. It reduces a sugar craving. So you'll notice that you don't have such a sweet tooth.
Great.
With the artichoke leaf. Again, very high dose. And the two in combination are dynamite, because the sugar and the fat are being dealt with at the same time.
Interesting.
So it becomes an issue during the menopause, and that sort of weight gain during that time. So the earlier you can start that process, I think that combination really, should be looking at. If you've got issues of weight gain, and particularly fat in and around the liver, which is a big issue, then, beyond 35, 40, I think you should be looking at that as a solution. And then it's really kind of picking off if there's some unusual symptoms, and sometimes that can kind of present itself, some, skin issues.
Yeah.
I've seen
skin and hair changes really common.
Yeah. And I've seen some really bad late onset acne.
Okay.
And so, you say, well, okay, how the hell does that relate to hormones? But it does.
Well, if we think to teenage, that's all breaking out there, and that hormonal surge that they get.
Yeah. And so, I did a fantastic bit of interesting research project, a few years back, and we developed a product that was coming out of science from broccoli. And there's a component of broccoli which is made in small amounts. When you chew broccoli, there's an enzyme called myrosinase, and it creates a cascade of chemicals, one of which is called DIM, and DIM is particularly effective at treating acne. And we developed a synthetic route that was high quality, pharmaceutical standards, that enabled the dose required for acne, and literally it can take a face full of spots to nothing within about 3 months. It's quite incredible to see. And the alternatives for acne in the market is really quite difficult. There's a product, isotretinoin, I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's quite liver toxic, and you have to have liver tests at the same time, and has some psychological effects as well, side effects.
Oh gosh.
So, again, it's available on the site. It's called Skin Acumax. So you can buy that if you've got any skin problems or breakouts and stuff. Skin Omegas is another one. So the omega oils, really good for skin, but has to have the DHA and the EPA levels at a certain level. So talking about skin specifically, there are a lot of issues of breakouts as people going through those hormonal changes, and that makes complete sense. So there are two solutions that we use. One is skin omegas from a company that we work with that have got very high standards, and it's because the EPA and the DHA levels within those omega oils are really high, and those are the things that really kind of help to resolve problem skin.
And do you use them as an oil on the face?
No, these are capsules taken.
Capsule, okay.
Capsule taken, and there are plenty of omega oils out there. If you look often you look, and it's like 1,000 milligrams or whatever, huge capsules, and they have hardly any, or they're not the right amount of EPA and DHA in there. So again, active components. Forget the gloss, as it were.
Yeah.
I smoke and mirrors sometimes, as I call it. So skin omegas also great for cognitive function. So the omegas. So proper evidence base for that.
Yeah.
And Skin Acumax, which is based on the DIAN. Again, if you've got really problematic to get acne, late breakouts of acne, then that will resolve those issues really quickly. And it's an anti-inflammatory, so you can start to see that connection with inflammation again.
Yes, right. And actually a lot of it comes from that whole kind of inflammatory response anyway. I think, menopause hits us at the worst time of life.
Yeah.
We're at our busiest. Yeah. We are at probably our most stressed. We've got a lot of demands on our shoulders. We're probably close to burnout. Yeah. And then bam, let's go. A whole other hormonal change. Yeah. One of the things that we talk a lot about in our community with the work that we do, obviously, is, you have to start making time to take that nervous system down into a calm, relaxed state. So it's not sexy and it's not fun, but, doing the relaxation, doing the breath work, doing the kind of piece is absolutely fundamental to your well-being, particularly at this stage of life. So, if we can combine that with other things that are going to support that, and you're going to start feeling better in general, then why wouldn't you?
Yeah, I think the self-nurturing, it's back to that. I mean, really, if there's anything that's, I can't think of many things that are more major than such a rapid decline in hormone levels and the impact that has on every system of the body. Right. And, the one thing it does do is it actually forces you into kind of retuning into your body, because it's all over the place.
Yes.
It's difficult to manage. It's undermining in terms of confidence, the impact it has to yourself and your working environment, your family environment, everything
changes.
Is huge. And I think the medical fraternity community is only just waking up to that. And I still think there's, even within the pharmacist community, I think there's a lack of understanding of the importance of this. So I think you've really got to retune, use your instinct, test out what works, what doesn't work. That's again this sort of principle of test it out, make sure it's working for you. Because if it's not, then it's the wrong approach. Reduce your drivers, so your stress level, cortisol, big impact. And find what works for you and stuff. And unfortunately, it also forces you into some big decisions about your life and the way you're living your life and stuff, and perhaps where you've always said yes in the past, that you've got to start saying no.
True.
Because those boundaries, you need that space, you need that time to be able to readjust. And I know that the team at Naked Pharmacy is really dedicated to supporting the menopause journey and giving you the information.
Great.
And providing that network support and that hub where you can feel safe. And if we can help you interpret labels or combinations of treatments or whatever it is, or signpost you to a practitioner that does understand, there's lots of tests you can do in terms of hormone levels, quite expensive, but quite useful as a template or a marker point.
Although most people, let's just pick that up, because most people that work in the menopause space will say there's kind of no point in testing your hormonal levels because they will fluctuate day to day. Yes. The thing that they're more likely to focus on is your symptom display. Yes. So let's look at what's happening in the body rather than giving us a snapshot of how it is at this moment on this day, because it could have changed overnight dramatically the next day.
I agree to a certain extent, but I think there's also, I see a lot of overlooking simple, basic stuff like what's your thyroxine levels and your function. So often they forget to check so basic questions like that. What's your iron levels? What's your vitamin D levels? What's your B12 level? So that they can do quickly and simply and generally on NHS. So so you don't necessarily
we can
have to
ask for that. Can I just get clear? Because a lot of, the average doctor's not going to say, why don't we test all of these levels of your vitamins? That's very unusual, but we can ask for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So just discount the basic, easy sold things.
Yes.
And if you do that, then at least then you start to kind of work and narrow down what the causes are and stuff. So, and I think there are practitioners out there that actually can help navigate this, but probably more privately than
I think so too.
NHS, unfortunately.
Well, just for an example on that one, I'm taking the trio of HRT. I'm taking estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. And my GP couldn't prescribe me testosterone, but I'd heard so much about the benefits of it from those that were taking it that I went and saw someone privately who asked my GP to do bloods. The testosterone levels came back at 0.0 something. For them, it wasn't even, GP surgery were like, oh, it's just, it is, that's what it is. She said, how are you getting out of bed?
Yeah. Absolutely
stunned that it wasn't even flagged up.
Yeah.
And that just shows the lack of understanding, I think, and lack of menopause training in general, for the average GP, because they're not understanding how these things work together, and that our female bodies also need this in our system to give us that energy to get us up and focusing and functioning. So it was such a great relief to hear someone go, oh my gosh, I'm amazed that you're even sitting here talking to me. Let's get you on testosterone. And absolutely, it was the thing that made a huge difference very quickly.
Wow. Yeah.
So it is so important.
Overlooked.
Yeah, often overlooked. And it is really worth continuing to have the conversation. And we encourage all of our community to keep going back to the GP and say, why don't you talk to a different GP about this? Because, I think there's enough evidence now. It should be seeping through to kind of grassroots that people can have that conversation a bit more freely. But fenugreek as an alternative. If your doctors are stubbornly saying no, definitely worth trying. Yes, I didn't know about this.
Yeah, and it's proper evidence-based. So the aphrodisiac that we have has got ashwagandha, fenugreek, ginkgo biloba.
Right.
So it's the one for cerebral circulation. So for cognitive function.
Amazing.
Reduction of risk of Alzheimer's disease and stuff. The experts all agree on ginkgo biloba.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
amazing. Oh, so there's lots of things that we can do. And, it is important to try the HRT that's available to us nowadays because it is modern. It is not the stuff that they were doing the research on 30 years ago based on horse's urine. It is not that anymore. It has evolved a very long way. And I absolutely know that there are many women out there who cannot tolerate it. And so this conversation will hopefully have given those women something to think about. So, Kevin, you're an absolute star. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much for listening to the Rest, Repair, Recover podcast. If this episode brought you comfort, insight, or even a little spark of hope, I'd love it if you left a review. It really helps more people find this kind of much-needed support. And if you know someone that needs to hear this too, please share it with them. I'm sending love, as always. Look after yourselves.